Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my spoiler-free review of Miss Newbury's List by Megan Walker. This is a review of an ARC that I received in exchange for this honest review, so thank you so much to the publisher. I will put content warnings in the description box, and this book comes out very soon at the time I'm posting this. The release date is February 7th, and as I said, this review is going to be spoiler-free. So this book is set in 1820s England, and our main character is Rosalind Newbury, and she has just recently become engaged to a duke, which is something that her family had been hoping for a while. Like they didn't like push her into it or anything, but that is something that like they'd always kind of hoped to elevate their family, and Rosalind had as well, and she's finally succeeded. So she's feeling kind of fulfilled, you know, she's feeling good about that, but she's also kind of panicking because her wedding date is approaching very quickly. She basically just has this summer and then she's going to get married and everything is going to change for her. And she's kind of worried that she hasn't achieved anything really, or that she's going to, like, her life is going to completely change and she won't be ready for it. She won't even have done the things that she wanted to do before then. So she kind of gets this idea, like an aunt of hers had kind of inspired her to write down a list of things that she wanted to do before she was married, and she had forgotten about the list, or like she'd never looked at it again. And so she suddenly decides that she's going to complete this list, and that will help her feel like ready for her marriage, and it'll help her feel like she's done something, you know, before she kind of gets into this completely new life and situation. And she ends up recruiting the help of her best friend, and her best friend's cousin is actually staying with them. Her best friend is Liza and her cousin is Charlie, and he is kind of like disgraced in the family. There's some like reasons that he's been kind of estranged from them, but he's come back and is possibly trying to reconcile. So even though he and Liza don't start out wanting to help Rosalind, they do end up doing that, and kind of they all get wrapped up in helping her achieve these goals and everything. But then as they start spending more and more time together, things start getting complicated because Rosalind really likes Charlie, but she's obviously engaged to the Duke, and so there's like a lot of that kind of conflict as well. And I really enjoyed this one. I do want to mention before I get into too many other thoughts that I feel like this book did a really good job of handling the fact that like there's a possible romance even though the character is engaged to somebody else. It's not, I don't think it's like a cheating plotline really, but I know that some people are very sensitive to that. I don't tend to like cheating plotlines either, but I feel like this book did a good job of addressing that. And also, I've mentioned this before, but I find it much easier to forgive and understand in like a historical setting where women especially had very little agency about who they ended up like engaged to. Like this is a case where Rosalind did have a little more say in like becoming engaged to the Duke, but like in terms of the societal pressures and everything, like basically I could understand it and forgive it. And I think that even if that's something that you don't usually want to pick up, I feel like you might still like how this book did that. So as I was saying, I did really enjoy this one. The start was a little bit, I don't want to say slow, but it took me a little while to really get into it because she meets Charlie pretty quickly, and I wasn't a big fan of him at first. Like he did some like, he helps her out in some really important ways, like saves her life a couple times, so like that was obviously good. But in terms of their interactions and the way they like talk to each other, I wasn't really loving it, so I was a little worried that I wouldn't like their relationship as much. But I ended up really enjoying the way that developed as the book went on. I ended up very invested in their romance. Like the yearning of this book is really good. There's like, yeah, I just think it did a really good job of like showing the complications of the two of them being interested in each other when Charlie also has all of these like family things going on, and of course Rosalind is engaged to a Duke. And I just think their relationship was done really well. I also really liked Liza, and I like that her characterization was, I don't know, it's not, she wasn't like the best friend character that you usually get in books like this. And I really liked her. I liked her and Rosalind's relationship, and I liked the way that kind of developed or like strengthened in some ways as the book went on. I did also like Rosalind herself as a protagonist, and I really appreciate that this book, it seemed to focus a lot on, I don't know, like the emotional like honesty of like what it would actually be like to be in the situation, because this kind of like romantic setup I feel like is not super uncommon, you know, like a historical where a character is engaged to somebody but then they start getting feelings for someone else, and like do they want to, you know, keep their promise and help their family move up in society, or do they want to follow their heart? Like, that's something that happens. It's not unusual in books, which is not a bad thing, obviously. But I feel like this book is one of the ones that really grapples with how messy that is, and how Rosalind can feel proud of what she's accomplished and eager to not let her parents down, but also uncertain and afraid about the future. And then she starts feeling conflicted because she likes Charlie as well. Like, I just think all of that felt very real. And I also really loved that, like, the way her family played into this story, like especially her parents. I just really liked the way they were kind of like used in the story, or I liked that they weren't like forcing her and bullying her into marrying the Duke. Like, Rosalind genuinely didn't want to disappoint them, and I feel like that was a refreshing take on this trope. Speaking of family though, I was not a big fan of her brother Ben, but I feel like he was a well-written character, except for I feel like we were supposed to like him more than I did, but he was annoying. He got a little better by the end, but and I do understand, like, he makes sense as a character, like, for when he grew up and everything, but he was very frustrating sometimes. But overall, I did really like the family dynamics and the friendships and everything. Just the relationships in general, I thought were really well done. I really loved some of the scenes with Charlie and I think it's his grandmother. I loved that so much. I loved all the scenes that happened there. As I was saying, I did really love the romance by the end, or not even the end of the book, but like just after we got past that first section. And I feel like the book just did a really great job with like the romantic tension and the way that all of these other factors made that even more complicated. And also just the fact that, like, because of the time period, you know, these things are like, there's a lot of like rules and like niceties that they have to obey, and sometimes that's not always possible. And yeah, I just thought that was very well handled. Oh, something else that I was really impressed with, like, I feel like the plot overall I really enjoyed, like the directions that the story went and everything, but specifically I'm really impressed because I don't like this kind of like scavenger hunt or bucket list, or, you know, trying to accomplish all these things. Like, for whatever reason, that is a story setup that I don't find interesting, but I was still very engaged with this one. I feel like that was done really well, so I feel like that's like extra points for me because I usually don't like that. I also enjoyed the writing style of this book. I'm really excited to read Lakeshore Park by Megan Walker, because, you know, I really liked the writing of this one and everything, and I feel like the tropes of that one I might like even more. But yeah, I thought this was really great. The only things that I didn't love besides Ben are, one thing, I realized I forgot to mention this in the synopsis, but Charlie, like, one of the reasons he's like viewed as like kind of like the family bad boy, but he's really not, which I really appreciate because I don't like bad boys like that. But one of the reasons that he's kind of known as that is that he's like into boxing, which was like not a gentleman's sport. And I feel like those parts of the book, like, I don't know, I didn't love those scenes. I understand why they were part of the story, but especially by the end, it didn't feel super necessary, so I kind of wish those weren't in there because, like, I just didn't like what that did for, like, the character dynamics. I don't know. Like, I'm also not into boxing, so that might be part of it, but yeah, I didn't love the way that was done. There were also some things regarding the Duke that I think I just wish would have been handled differently. And then the only other thing is, this is a pet peeve of mine that doesn't bug a lot of people, but I really don't like it when characters meet and they immediately are like constantly distracted by how attractive the other person is. And it does kind of make sense because, like, obviously in this time period, like, Rosalind wouldn't have seen a shirtless guy, so like I get that, but it happened pretty quick, and I just don't like reading that. I think that's kind of dumb, and I feel like that's not a particularly interesting way to introduce your like main characters or your main romance. But again, very personal preference, but overall I did really enjoy this, and I gave Miss Newbury's List 4 stars. Okay everybody, so that was my spoiler-free review. Please let me know if you are interested in this book and if you're gonna pick it up, or maybe if you've already read it, let me know what you thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!